Welcome to Health and Harmony Beyond the Teeth, where we dive into all subjects that will help you become healthier and happier. As a dentist, I believe dentistry is more than just teeth, so I created this show to focus on overall health. We will hear from leading experts about eating better, exercising better, breathing better, and sleeping better. We want to help you create harmony in your life so you can live your life to the fullest. We want you to thrive. Hello, welcome to Health and Harmony Beyond the Teeth. I'm Dr. Hal Stewart, your host. Today we have with us again for episode 2 of our 3-part series on flexibility and mobility, Kay Sims, certified trainer and partner at Outlaw Fitcamp by Jesse James. Kay, welcome back.
Thank you.
Last week, Kay, we talked about basically what flexibility and mobility is and kind of, what happens as we age, and even as the young children now are losing mobility. And we talked about that last week. This week, I want to get a little bit more specific on what you see as a trainer and helping your patients. And by the way, at Outlaw Fit Camp, when you go in there, it's not a bunch of gym rats that are, competing for bodybuilding contests, although there are some that do that. But you see everybody in there from, I see kids in there that are in middle school up to, what's the oldest patient that y'all have had in your gym?
We've had 94, 95.
Yeah.
So we've had a wide variety of ages. We currently have several clients in their 80s that train at our studio.
Yeah, and that's just amazing. And these folks are smart enough to know that you got to keep moving because, as we said last week, if you don't use it, you lose it. So, Kay, the different areas we lose mobility as adults, what are the primary areas that we lose mobility? And let's talk about each one of those.
And some of the main areas I see are going to be your neck, shoulders, your torso and your spine, spinal mobility, and then hips, and then also actually at the ankles. And that's the ankles is a big area that we're really starting to find is greater cause of a lot of issues that I think in the past we would have attributed to somewhere higher up in the body, but they're discovering that's
so it's all a big chain.
It's one big chain, right. And when one area is off, that's going to impact our movement in the rest of our body.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why it's really important to work on mobility in all these areas.
So should we start from the top and go down, or from the bottom and go up?
Let's start at the top.
Okay.
So with the neck, the ability to move, moving the head from side to side. And if the neck is not able to do its job, and we turn, like when we're driving or just wanting to look at your friend that you're talking to next to you, or any other reason you need to move, if you can't turn it, how are you going to move then? You're going to turn the rest of, you're going to have to torque your body some other way to make that movement happen. And compensation.
Like we talked about last week. Yeah.
And if you're not able to, if you're struggling to do that, you're going to do whatever you can and hurt yourself or set yourself up for an injury in another way. And I think a lot of people, they lose that ability when you lose that mobility in your neck, just even as a safety issue. I had a vertebrae out of alignment one time, and it was hard to turn my neck to the side. That makes driving really hard. But how many people are on the road then that maybe have an issue that can't even look to see what's behind them safely, and then that puts at risk for an auto accident there, or they can't turn their head to, or their vision can't detect maybe a step or a wall, something that they might run into or trip over. And that's just that could be just from a loss of mobility at the neck.
So loss of mobility in your neck really is a decrease in your vision as well, because
absolutely
your range of vision.
Yeah.
Because your eyes can only see peripherally so far. So the more you can turn your neck, the more you can see.
Absolutely. We should be able to look from side to side, up, down, should be safe, should be able to do it without any pain. And you should have some range of motion. If you find yourself stuck, you can only look 45 degrees away, 45 degrees to your left, then you're missing out and your mobility is restricted there.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go on down the river here to the shoulders. So neck, shoulders, that's all connected together. So what happens for people's shoulders? I know what happened with my shoulders.
Well, depending on, there's a wide variety of issues that could cause limitation. For you, it was a sports injury. We see a lot of sports injuries from the past. So men and women in their 40s and 50s that did play sports. It could have been just a fall or a car accident, something where they damaged tissue in the shoulders, whether it was a torn labrum, rotator cuff, wide variety. The other reason we'll see poor mobility is, as we mentioned in the last episode, is poor posture. It's from the technology, sitting at our computers, working on our phones, iPads, every other technology that's out there, and we get rolled forward. When we sit in that position for a long time, our pectoral muscles and muscles in the front of our body become extra tight. That causes your back muscles to become overstretched. So when the back muscles are overstretched, they're not doing their jobs to hold yourself up. So now you're rolled forward, and now you're in a compromised position, and therefore you're too tight here. You lose that mobility in your shoulders because you're stuck forward. How do I reach behind me? If I'm pulled forward, how can I reach behind me or reach up properly? And I think one of the key things with losing mobility anywhere up and down our body, our kinetic chain, is being out of alignment. And when we're out of alignment, just like with a car, just like when you've talked about with the mouth health and the ability for the mouth to move, the structure to move properly, that anytime that it's out of position, we're going to do something, we're going to compensate. And anywhere down the line, it's important. But a big one that we see is shoulders. And some of it's just tight tissue or an injury. Those are the top two areas. So addressing the injury, such as through proper training with a personal trainer that knows what they're doing, or a physical therapist. Also identifying if you have tightness, then investing in spending time with a massage therapist, finding out where those soft tissue areas are that need to be worked on to released. So certain areas need to be stretched out and released, and then those other areas that are opposing need to be strengthened.
Well, and we talk a lot on this podcast about breathing and sleep and sleep-related breathing disorders, and about nasal breathing. When your shoulders are all rolled over and you're rolled over, it has an effect on your breathing as well. So, the fact that having less flexibility can also be detrimental to your oxygen intake too in your breathing. Absolutely. So the human body it's all connected, and it's not, we compartmentalize it in specialties, but it's all connected. And something, a river, you can do something 100 miles upstream and it can have dire consequences 100, 200, 300 miles downstream on a major river. So the body's no different. So as we're going down now, we're down in the torso, the spine area. What happens? So we've got limited mobility in the neck. It's in the, it worked its way to the shoulders. Now in our spinal cord. What do you see in that area of the body that's a big problem?
Well, a lot of people, just from our habits of every day, is we're sitting straight forward and we're not playing sports. We're not being active and rotating in different directions. And we need to, if you don't use it, you lose it. So those muscles around the spine become really stiff. And there's also, when we don't activate and the spine isn't mobile, and there's fluid in our spine that's not being moved throughout the spine, it just causes that spine to become more rigid. And then when it's rigid, then when we go to move once again, then we're going to compensate and set ourselves up for injury. Some people have had spinal injuries, whether it's from a car accident, sports, or other issues, and then they've had that. Now they're limited. They may have had their back, a fusion in their discs, or vertebrae that have been crushed, all kinds of things, bulging discs. So that area has some limitation now, and once that limitation starts, that's going to reduce your mobility all the way up the spine. So without appropriate, physical therapy training to maintain the mobility where they're able to, it's just a downward spiral once again of mobility loss.
Well, people, I think of Vicky that we had on, 6 or 8 months ago, she was in a horrendous car accident, and she has, all kinds of metal in her body.
Yeah.
There's people out there that have that. But they shouldn't give up, right? I mean, they're not going to be a gold medal gymnast, but they can, whatever condition they're in, they can improve it.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely, and maintain a good quality of life.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, they put themselves in, they set aside life once something like that happens, and without putting in that effort it takes more effort to maintain that mobility that they have, but it's not a lost cause, and there's plenty of life to be lived, but it's all a matter of the effort that you're willing to put in, and not thinking that it's all over. It's looking at what you can do, not what you can't do.
Yeah, and I'm excited to get to. We're not done with episode 2, but I'm excited to get to episode 3, where Kay's going to actually give us some solutions on what we can do, no matter where you're at with your health. So let's go on down where we're the neck, then the shoulders, immobility in the shoulders, the spine, now the hips. And I know that's one thing that we're working on with me right now is the hip mobility.
And that's another big area of the body, because that's involving when we're bending over. Bending over, we're walking. The hip mobility is, once again, a lot of loss happens because we're sitting all day long, not active, not moving in different directions. And when those lock up, that can also, the muscles around it, like your psoas, if those are really tight, those are going to be contracted. It's going to cause you to bend forward, or too far bent forward, and then you're not able to support yourself well. Mm-hmm. Once again, impacts your breathing. Mm-hmm. That plays into a big part of it. The psoas muscle starts at your diaphragm and goes all the way down around over your hips and into your backside. So when that's too tight, that's gonna pull, and that's going to pull you forward. That's going to pull into the back, create back issues. And that's a full spiral there. So like with yours, when we're working on those hips, when you're squatting down, if you can't get low enough properly to pick up something, you're picking up your pumpkin or picking up a bag of mulch. If you can't get down properly, you're going to compensate and figure out a way to still get down, and it's not going to be a safe way, and then that's going to set you up for injury. You're more prone to injury, And I see a lot of people, their hips, and there's a lot that goes on in the hips a lot of reasons that can cause hip immobility, mm-hmm. and it's also just different spots, whether it's your tight psoas, your glutes, weak glutes, a lot of reasons that will create that. The loss of mobility.
For our patients out there that aren't physiologically aware, when you say glutes, what are you talking about?
Your butt cheeks there, and
your buttocks.
And a lot of it with there's hips, there's mobility in the hips, and there's also a lot of stabilizers around that too. So there's kind of both pieces that play into that. With it, whether you lose your mobility and you're not able to stabilize, or you can't stabilize, so you lose the mobility. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different reasons, different factors that play into that.
Yeah. So down to the ankles, you brought this up, was not surprising to me, but something that I don't think a lot about, but it makes perfect sense. Ankle mobility.
Yeah. So with ankle mobility, the reason why it's important is because it's the foundation. Our feet are on the ground. Yeah. It's the foundation of the entire body moving.
It makes perfect sense. Yeah.
And if you don't have the proper mobility, that can impact the way you're going to squat down, mm-hmm. the way you're going to take a step. And I had one client, I asked her if you try and do an ankle circle, she literally could not move her ankle. So if it's in that stuck position, there's compensations going up down the line as she's just trying to take every step.
Yeah.
And so they're really starting in the field to really address that more. Some of the Gray Cook and Lee Burton that are with functional movement systems, they've different protocols to assessing ankle mobility, and just all the issues that we have found now that mm-hmm. people are having that are stemming from the bottom, because we're looking at hips, we're looking at shoulders, but it often gets overlooked.
Go a little lower,
going just a little lower.
I mean, it makes perfect sense. If you were let's say the world's perfect human specimen and everything was working beautifully, and you broke your ankle, the ankle didn't heal correctly, eventually that's going to work its way all the way up to your neck.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you're this perfect human specimen and you injure your neck and you don't get it treated properly, that will work its way down probably all the way to your ankles.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
all of those major joint areas in our body are all interrelated, and they need to be maintained as best that we can. So that is very fascinating. So neck, shoulders, the torso, spinal cord, the hips, and then the ankle. We've covered all those today. On our next episode, we're going to look at those too, and we're going to kind of look at some practical things that people can do on a daily basis to help with keep those areas more mobile, or help get them more mobile than they are now. So, Kay, I'm excited about the next episode where we know we've defined it, the what, and now and the why. And next week we're going to talk about the how. How do we make it better? So, thank you so much for being on today. It's been a pleasure. Can't wait until next week. I'm Dr. Hal Stewart. This has been Health and Harmony Beyond the Teeth. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week.